All right, so we are now on to a move called waving hands in clouds. I love this move. So after we did from the end of repulsed monkeys into diagonal flying, the next move is waving hands in clouds. So we're going to turn the torso. Hands are going to change. Right, the top hand on the outside, bottom hand rises up on the inside. Stepping out to the side, turn, arms move with the torso. Hands change again, right foot comes in, turning back to the right. Arms move with the torso. Hands change, left foot steps out, arms move with the torso. Hands change, right foot comes in, turning back to the right. Hands change one more time, left foot steps out, and we'll come across. And then we'll be going into gather water. So waving hands in clouds. This is a beautiful move, and there is a lot to it on a lot of deeper levels. But we're just going to go over the very basics of it, okay? So let's start in a really simple way. So let's go from diagonal flying. But I want you to keep your feet straight to begin with, okay? So from diagonal flying, better yet, let's start with a hold the ball. So from here, we're just going to change the hands around. We're going to let the top hand, in this case my right hand, we're going to let the top hand drift down on the outside with the palm facing down, and let the left hand rise up on the inside with the palm facing up. Then they're going to circle around. So now the left hand will drift down on the outside, right hand rises up on the inside. So if I do this from the side, you can see it's kind of creating this circular feel. So the top hand drifts down on the outside. The hand that's drifting down is going to be further out away from you. Drifting down, the inside hand rising up. Okay? Easy enough to do? If you want to, you can imagine that you've got an opponent, someone you're not too friendly with, and in the middle of winter you want them to be really cold and they want me to be really cold. So I'm going to unzip their jacket, but they've already unzipped mine, so I'm going to zip up my jacket. And then they've zipped up their jacket and unzipped mine, so I'm going to unzip their jacket and zip up my jacket. Unzip their jacket, zip up mine. Unzip theirs, zip up mine. Okay? So that'll help you remember. It's kind of quirky little way. And I have to say, I've stolen this from a guy named Ian Sinclair. He's up in Canada. He's got great videos. So, but that will help you remember which hand is positioned where as you're moving them in this plane. Okay? So coming back to this direction, so unzipping, zipping up. Unzipping, zipping up. So now, if you've got your right hand on top, I want you to turn just a little bit to the right. So when you turn, I want you to make sure that you're not turning with your knees. Keep your knees pointing straight ahead. Just turn the torso, okay? So I'm going to turn just a little bit to the right. So now I've got two people who I'm having zipper wars with. So I'm going to unzip his jacket and zip up mine. And then I'm going to turn to the left, unzip his jacket, zip up mine. Turn to the right, unzip and zip up. Turn to the left, unzip and zip up. One other thing to note here is that as I'm doing this, my hands are always right in front of my torso, okay? So what I'm not doing is reaching off to the side. I might be able to unzip his jacket, but I'd be trying to zip up the side of mine. So I want to turn my whole torso, unzip his jacket, zip up mine, okay? So you can start off just turning a little bit. Even just doing that will start giving you the feel for this move, but as time goes on, you want to start turning a little bit more. So instead of turning just here, you start opening that up a little bit more, a little bit more. I don't want you to get to the point where you're straining turning around. If you're not getting to the side, that's perfectly fine. If it's off to an angle, that's perfectly fine. I don't want you to be twisting around, okay? So I'm going to turn to the right, unzip, zip up. Turn to the left, unzip, zip up. Turn to the right, right hand drifting down, left hand rising up. And again, pay attention to the knees. Don't let the knees twist. Turn to the left, unzip, and zip up. Turn to the right, unzip, and zip up. All right, now we're going to start stepping a little bit. So I'm going to turn to the left. As I'm doing the zipping and unzipping, or as the hands are changing, I'm going to bring the right foot in. Now I'm going to turn back to the right, and as I'm doing the zipping and unzipping, left foot's going to step out. Turn back to the left, zipping and unzipping. Right foot steps in. Turning back to the right, zipping and unzipping. Left foot steps out. And back to the left, unzipping and zipping. Right foot comes in. Back to the right, I'm running out of room here. Hands change, left foot steps out. So I'm going to make this the last one. I've run out of room. But we're going to be doing a gather water after that. Okay? So let's go from the top. From diagonal flying. From here, my right foot's already pointing at a 45-degree angle. So I'm just going to preload. Again, I want to keep my knee. In this case, because my foot's at an angle, I want to keep my knee bending in the same direction as the knee. I don't want to twist the knee out, but I also don't want to twist the knee in. Twisting the knees will lead to damage over time. So we want to keep a good knee structure, knees bending in the same direction as the toes at all times, whenever possible. So from diagonal flying, I'm going to preload turning the torso. My left hand will kind of scoop underneath, and then hands change. Right hand drifting down, left hand rising up. My left foot's going to step out, and it's going to step out pointing straight ahead. If you can, see if you can put the foot down on the inside edge of the foot and then roll onto the foot. So from diagonal flying, preload, hands change, left foot steps out, edge down, roll onto the foot. As I shift my weight, I'm turning, and you'll notice my arms are moving with my torso. I'm not moving my arms around my torso. My torso is turning and my arms are moving with it. Over on the left side, I'm balanced on the left foot, hands change, right foot comes in. If you can put the edge down and then roll onto it as you shift your weight back to the right foot. Hands change, left foot steps out, edge down, roll onto it. Hands change, right foot comes in. Roll back. Hands change, left foot steps out. I've lost count. I think that was 3 steps. So on this side, after the 3rd step, hands are going to change again, but this time left hand is going to scoop underneath, right hand will form the beak, right heel will rest on the ground in front. If you can't see me there. So last one, if you can't see me, if you couldn't see me before, gather water. Left hand scoops, right hand kind of draws up the beak. And we're in gather water. Okay? So let me do this. Let me do this from the back. From diagonal flying. I'm going to preload. Hands change. Right hand drifts down, left hand rises up, left foot steps out. One way to remember this is that the rising hand always corresponds to the foot that's stepping, whether it's stepping out or rising hand stepping in. Okay? Diagonal flying. Preload. Hands change. Left foot steps out. Edge of the foot, roll onto the foot. And turn to the left. Hands change, right hand rising, right foot comes in, rolling back to the right. Hands change, left foot steps out, and across to the left. Hands change, right foot comes in, turning back to the right. Hands change, left foot steps out. This is going to be the third step. So we'll come across and into gather water. Left hand scoops, right hand forms a beak, right heel resting on the ground. Let me do this from the side and we'll see how many steps I can get in. So you'll have to imagine that I'm doing diagonal flying. I need a little more room. So diagonal flying, I'm facing the diagonal direction. I'm going to preload. Hands will change. Left foot steps out. I'm going to shift the weight, turning across. Hands change, right foot comes in, turning back to the right. Hands change, left foot steps out, and across. And I'm going to run out of camera space room here. Hands change, right foot comes in, turning back to the right. One last step, hands change, so I'll come across. Gather water, left hand scoops, right hand forms the beak, right heel down on the ground out in front. All right, let me do it from this side one more time. So from diagonal flying, preload, hands change, left foot steps out and across. Right foot comes in and back. Left foot steps out and across, right foot comes in. I'm making my steps a little smaller to give me space. Third step out, hands change, left foot steps out, so I'm going to go across and then gather water. Left hand scoops, right hand forms a beak, right heel down in front. Okay? A couple notes on this. First of all, the stepping. When you're stepping, don't feel like you have to reach way out. This does not have to be a big stepping move. You can do it with little steps too, okay? Ideally, you want to be able to step about shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit wider, but if it's narrower, it's not that big a deal. Same thing with the stepping in. If you want, you can bring your foot all the way in. I like to have a little bit of space there, but really, you can bring it in even just a little bit, okay? So if you're in a cramped space like this, taking smaller steps in and taking smaller steps out will give you more room to do this. The other thing you want to pay attention to is when you're doing the move, you want the arms to be kind of puffed out here, okay? So there's a difference between doing waving hands in clouds like this and waving hands in clouds like this, okay? This is kind of soft. There's really not much to the arms. You want to get this puffiness. If you've heard me talk about pung, expanded out, that's the feel you want with this. You want this to be nice and expanded, okay? One other note is if you're practicing at home, when we're in class, we typically take 3 steps to the left, okay? If you're practicing at home, again, if you have a long hallway or a long driveway, do 37, 38, 39 steps. Even number, odd number, it doesn't matter, okay? If you're in a smaller space and you want to do a whole lot of them, then you can take a few steps in one direction and then go back in the other direction. And you can just keep going back and forth as long as you want, okay? It's a great way to practice this move, and this move really benefits from just doing it over and over again. You'll get a much nicer flow with the move as you do it. Another note about waving hands in clouds. When you first start doing the move, you might do this upper body pattern in a very square way. In other words, you might go across, change the hands, go across, change the hands, okay? You might change the hands, step out, go across, change the hands, step back, step in, turn back. So it's almost like you're drawing squares in the air, okay? What you want to do over time is start to round off the corners of those squares so they start to become almost these big ovals. Okay? You see how circular that is? So over time, if you're stuck doing it with squares right now, that's okay. But over time, see if you can round off those corners so it becomes more fluid. All right? And that's waving hands in clouds.